make sure to follow us on Instagram at Whistlethrowers. It's a great way to interact with our show. Our DMs are always open for questions, topic discussions, and more. You will be able to find our new episodes and other announcements there.
This entire thing pissed me the hell off.
Thanks for tuning back to the Whistlethrowers podcast. This is Jack Mubarak, joined by
Jack Slaymaker.
Alright, so we know the Super Bowl matchup. We just got through with the conference championship games. I want to start with the Eagles first. Eagles versus Niners, because there was a lot of controversy, but not as much as the next game. So Brock Purdy went out very fast, and then the fourth string quarterback, Josh Johnson, got thrown into the mix. And he showed that it's not the easiest job in the world, just taking snaps for the 49ers. So
yeah. The biggest thing for me in this game was just how dominant the Eagles were at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, but I want to start on the defensive side because I think that's where the controversy really stemmed from, was 49ers offense versus the Eagles defense. Purdy was injured early, and on that drive it looked like they were getting something going and they had a little bit of momentum building for that drive, and Hassan Reddick came off the edge. There's also a lot of controversy about why Kyle Shanahan had a tight end blocking him, which most of I agree with. Hassan Reddick comes off the edge, hits Purdy's elbow. The ball flutters into the air, looks incomplete. Upon review, it's a fumble. And also on that review, you can see Purdy's elbow just bend pretty much all the way back. And that led to the UCL tear. And he couldn't throw for the rest of the game, obviously, and when he did throw the few times, I think he only threw 2 times after he came back in, and they were both behind the line of scrimmage screen passes. It was a big factor, but I'm not sure if Purdy being in that game really changes much. The Eagles were so dominant, and the pressure was so consistent, and I'm not sure if Purdy would have had a game that could win the 49ers that game. It's tough for any QB to sit there and be just demolished in the pocket all game. We saw with Josh Johnson, although it's just one quarter, it looked like every drop back, he was getting pressure in his face and he was having to make quicker decisions. And those quicker decisions weren't coming to fruition because the 49ers weren't really expecting it. Not to their fault, really. Their offensive line had been great all year. This was really the first time they looked incompetent. The Eagles absolutely owned them up front. Everyone on the O-line was just not a match for anyone on the Eagles defensive front. And I don't want to brag about the run game too much. The Eagles did shut it down, but it becomes easier to stop the run game when you are expecting a run every time. But at the same time, you can't just completely discredit it. They played the run extremely well as they did the pass. And that's why they won the game. They won the game on the defensive side of the ball. The 49ers couldn't do anything with any QB in there, really.
Yeah, just showing how fast Brock Purdy was unable to throw the football just showed me that if Hassan Reddick didn't get him that play, he was going to keep getting him all night.
Yes.
And they weren't going to get anything going in the pass game. And obviously, CMC is the consensus best running back in the league now. Mm-hmm. He can't do it all. He did a lot despite the circumstances, but can't do it all. I do want to say the Eagles' pass offense was really slow.
Yeah.
And it was really clustered, not a lot going on besides Miles Sanders getting 2 touchdowns and Jalen getting 1 with his legs. But I'm not really concerned moving forward because I feel like we just took advantage, or the Eagles just took advantage of the situation at hand where they didn't need to go on an air raid against a team with a 4th string quarterback that wasn't staying on the field long offensively.
Yeah. And frankly, there was no reason to throw when the defense couldn't stop you on the run. There was just no reason really to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm. And everyone's quick to say Hurts is overrated because he had 121 pass yards the whole game, but
it really doesn't.
I've been trying not to get too angry about this, but this is really rich coming from the 49ers who had Jimmy Garoppolo pass for 8 times when they went up their Super Bowl run.
Right. Yeah.
This entire thing pissed me the hell off, and I've done my best to be as unbiased as possible. Hell, I picked the Giants said the Giants could beat the Eagles and picked the 49ers to win this game. So I have not that much faith in the Eagles. But the fact that I've seen so many people on social media, including apparently 49ers players now, which is even more ridiculous, say that the refs blew this game for that, it's a joke.
No, it's straight up ridiculous. Yeah. You could see, like...
49ers got completely outplayed 100% this game.
Yes.
And they blame the rest because it will make them feel better, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and you could see, like, every time they were flagged for a penalty, it was pretty blatantly obvious. Like, the only one I thought was questionable was the roughing the punter, which I still thought was roughing the punter. But I could see the case be made that he got blocked into the punter, even though I really don't think he did. But I saw people, 49ers fans, complaining about the holding call on, or the illegal contact call on Dallas Goedert on one of our touchdown drives, which was just completely an obvious call. He grabbed him with two hands and prevented him from breaking his route. It was just the most clear-cut call you could have made. And there was nothing really... I feel like the refs didn't have an impact at all on this game, really.
How can you have an impact when your first-string quarterback's playing?
Right.
That's what impacted the game.
Yeah.
And the fact that, some people say that there was a legal hit on Purdy is also just ridiculous.
No.
You mentioned the blocking by the tight end. Why the hell would you do that on a guy that should have won Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, it makes no
The
sense.
Eagles have ever done that with Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa? Sorry, hell no.
No.
Hell no.
They got owned on pretty much all fronts, and it's tough. Like, I can understand their fans being whiny, which is extremely annoying, but like, they had a great season all year, and then it just kind of came to a screeching halt, and it looked completely backwards from what they've seen. But you have to just accept that it wasn't your day, and you really got beat by a team that was better than you on all fronts. And just the whining and complaining about the refereeing, honestly, in both games is pretty ridiculous. Like, I don't think the refs were good in the Chiefs game, but I don't think the refs blew the game in the Chiefs game at the same time.
Blew the game. There's definitely controversial calls, 100%. I didn't see, besides the rough in the punter, which again, that could have gone either way. I've seen it gone either way all season long. There's not one penalty the 49ers had that I would extremely call. The 49ers played dirty. That's what happened.
Yeah.
They got pissed off that their season was coming to a screeching halt, like you said, and they couldn't handle it. And Trent Williams decided to throw Maddox down because what the hell, the season's over anyway. So have fun on your vacation or whatever. The Eagles are going to the freaking Super Bowl.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. That was completely dirty, and like, Trent Williams that was just a complete overreaction by him. And like, not only that was the last dirty play they committed. It was like, what's his last name? Halafanoa, the safety, shoves Hurts completely out of bounds, not even a question. Completely dirty play, and he was aiming for Hurts. He wasn't trying to lead Hurts out of bounds. He was aiming for Hurts to hit him hard, and he did. And then the Greenlaw play when he's just wailing punches into Kenneth Gainwell, who's holding onto the ball. I mean, that's just irresponsible, and it's ridiculous that was allowed, and it's ridiculous that he wasn't ejected from the game after that. That's not how you're even taught to punch at the ball, and you're not taught to punch at the ball when forward momentum is stopped and the whistles are blowing and you can clearly hear them. The 49ers, that's an embarrassment on the players and the coaching staff. Like, the coaching staff had no control over their players, and it was clear they were completely undisciplined the whole game, not only penalty-wise, but also, like you said, so many dirty plays from them.
So Aiden cited that 49ers fans that got him mad. You cited the players. I'm going to cite the outside fan bases. I always had a problem, like, even before this game, with people saying that the 49ers job at quarterback is easy.
Yeah.
And it's not, especially for Brock Purdy being a rookie and being the last pick in this year's draft and going to the NFC Championship game. But the same people that were saying this was the easiest job in the NFL are the same people saying that Josh Johnson going in is the reason they lost.
Mm-hmm.
When in theory, when Purdy went out and Josh Johnson went in, he should have played similar, if not the exact same way that Brock Purdy has been. If Brock Purdy isn't a good quarterback, which I think he's a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
And I hope that elbow injury doesn't hinder any future success he has. But, doesn't that disprove, every theory that Brock Purdy's just a system QB? And the 49ers can just plug anyone in and be a 13-wins team?
Yeah, definitely to a certain extent, because, I can hear, it's sort of just a lame tap-out to say our fourth-string QB was in. If Josh Johnson went into the Cowboys game, I think that the Cowboys defense was just less dominant to where the 49ers could have found something that Josh Johnson was comfortable with, and they could have found a rhythm. But, like you said, I'm not sure if anyone could have gone in and played QB in that offense and done successfully. Like, I just don't see it. You cannot play quarterback successfully when your pocket is collapsing in less than 3 seconds on every single drop back. It's just almost impossible. And I definitely think, like, moving forward, the 49ers should keep Purdy, obviously, as long as this injury heals well and he's able to rehab from it. But because I do think Purdy's a good quarterback, and I do agree with you. Like, I don't think, even if they put in Jimmy G, like, it probably may have looked worse, frankly, because Jimmy G is skittish in the pocket too. Yeah, I don't know if any of the QBs on their roster could have won that game.
Yeah, I don't even think Jimmy G made a difference, considering it looked like he was totally uninterested in the game.
Yeah.
Looked completely happy with everything that was going on, which also just shows that the coaching staff has a lack of accountability for their players when things are going poorly.
Yep.
It's very easy to be a successful team and be a successful coach when your team's on a crazy winning streak and everything's going right.
Mm-hmm.
When things go down, you got to buckle down. The 49ers could not do that this game.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like, I just think that it shows a lack of leadership on their front, because that would never happen with the Eagles. Like, if the Eagles were getting blown out like that, like, you would see guys hugging each other, maybe even some of them crying, because, like, they talk about it all the time, how much they love each other, and just the team chemistry is insane on that sideline and in that locker room. But yeah, when your quarterback or your backup quarterback is smiling, happy that you're getting blown out, it speaks volumes to what you were saying, Aiden. It really does.
I just don't think Kyle Shanahan's that good of a coach. Like, I think that he has a great system.
Yeah.
But when it comes to tough games and finding ways to win, he can't do that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is because of...
lost the Super Bowl in 2016. It's why they couldn't win the Super Bowl in 2020 or 2019. It's why they've lost the NFC Championship the other times that they win besides making it in 2019.
Yeah.
He just can't win because when things get tough, he doesn't know how to motivate his players.
Yes, that's the key right there, is he doesn't know how to motivate his players. He doesn't know how to rally a locker room. And it's like, I feel like him and Nick Sirianni are opposites. Like, Shanahan doesn't lack really anything in the football IQ department, but like you were saying, he can't really rally his troops well. And Sirianni's the complete opposite. He may lack some football IQ at times, but the fact that he's a great leader of men, it propels him over a guy like Kyle Shanahan, because it really came to fruition. Like, the 49ers QB goes down and they aren't able to rally as a team around this injury and make something out of it. Like, the QB was the only position that was really banged up that game. Everywhere else was good. You know, their O-line was healthy. Their receivers were healthy. McCaffrey played. Kittle played. The defense was healthy. I know Fred Warner missed a couple plays. He was probably banged up in the game, but he's still out on the field. You had Bosa, who didn't even record a pressure. You had Eric Armstead, who didn't even record a pressure. Like, that's sort of on Kyle Shanahan. I completely agree with what you're saying, Aiden.
And who is the leader on the 49ers?
Right.
Because Trevor Richardson lost his mind on that one play, so it's not like I can look to him for the leadership.
Nope.
Chris McCaffrey would be, he just got traded there not even 8 weeks ago. You're on your third-string quarterback who can be a leader at one point. I think Brock has all of those intangibles of being a leader. But as of right now, he's still a rookie 7th rounder. You can't lead a bunch of veterans at that point. I love Kittle's enthusiasm, but I don't look to him as a leader. I'd be looking to a guy like Rob Gronkowski as your leader, which would never happen. I don't think Nick Bosa is a leader at all either.
No.
To me, he's just like Joey. They just trash talk and never back it up when they actually have to.
Yeah.
So when you don't have that type of leadership, who do you turn to when things go bad? Because when it came to the Eagles in 2017, it was always Malcolm Jenkins. Even when things went badly at the quarterback, with Wentz going out and Foles coming in, you could always look to Malcolm Jenkins. You could always look to Jason Kelsey.
Yep.
At that point, you had Jason Peters, who was a veteran lineman as well.
Yep.
You had all these other guys around you where even Doug Peterson could say, hey, I'm going to lean on them, because I don't think Doug is that big of a motivator either. But Doug finds the right guys to lead people.
Yeah.
You can find guys to be leaders if you're not a leadership type coach. There's a reason why Andy Reid has won so many games without being the rah-rah type guy. There's a reason why Bill Belichick won 6 Super Bowls with Brady without being a rah-rah guy, because they found other people to do that for them. And I don't think the 49ers have that type of person, which is why they haven't won a Super Bowl no matter how good their teams have been.
I completely agree. And on the flip side of that coin, too, like this year, the Eagles have Jalen Hurts. And even though things sort of looked like it was going in the wrong direction in the first quarter, we couldn't get our rhythm on offense. And even though the 49ers had the injury, like they were threatening a couple times, Jalen Hurts is the cool, calm, collected guy that he's always been. And the team really exuberated off of that. Yeah, you're right. The 49ers don't have a guy like that. They just don't. And that's why they lost this game.
Okay, so I guess we can move over to the Bengals and Chiefs game.
Yeah.
So much for Burrowhead Stadium.
I know. Without getting into anything that actually happened in the game, the Bengals talked a lot of smack this week. Normally, I'd be rooting against that team, but the Bengals were my pick, and so obviously I was rooting for them. But I can't really defend them. Like you talked all that, and you just couldn't come here and back it up this week. And I kind of feel bad for Burrow because it's not like he stood in front of a microphone and said it's Burrowhead Stadium. Like the mayor did it. Like why can't people learn to just keep their mouth shut and let the football team do football things? Like it's just kind of stupid. And the mayor really lit a fire under the Kansas City Chiefs, whether you want to admit it or not. He did. They heard that. They got offended by that. Like Patrick Mahomes is their guy. Everyone on that team. Like they were offended that the mayor says Joe Burrow is his father, and they got proved wrong today. Or not today, Sunday. They got proved wrong. And then as for what happened in the game, my heart is heavy for Joseph Ossai. Like I feel terrible for him.
He had a great game.
He really
that
did.
Point,
no, he really did.
It was like a close call too. Like it wasn't like, oh, like you're an idiot. Like you completely blew that. Like that was like a 50-50 call. Almost.
I know. And like he was trying to prevent him from getting the first down. Like that's the difference between the Holanoa hit on Hurts and this hit on Mahomes. Like he was actively trying to stop Mahomes from getting a first down. Like he wasn't aiming to knock Mahomes out of the game or hurt him in any way. Mm-hmm. He was just trying to prevent the first down. And I mean, it was clear like Mahomes was out of bounds and he hit him. Like that's the letter of the law. It was a clear penalty, and I just feel terrible because I think they had the cameras on him too long on the sideline. Like immediately after the game, I thought that was kind of distasteful. Like the camera doesn't belong on him in that situation, regardless. But especially in that circumstance, like he what he's thinking. He blew that for everyone, and like it wasn't really right for CBS to have the cameras on him for that long. And it's like, why even have the cameras on him in the first place? It's because they don't want to do the generic showing Mahomes in like the coach ice bath. And this is different. Like the guy's crying on the sideline because he just lost them the game. Like I don't really like that at all. And I think like that's the problem with like mainstream sports media is that kind of stuff just gets blown out of proportion. And yeah, I didn't really like that.
I didn't love it either, but I think it also did show how close the Bengals are as a team.
Yeah.
Because we were seeing all the people consoling him, and I don't know who the one guy was who was yelling afterwards. Well, people had multiple different emotions after a loss.
Mm-hmm.
It was Pratt.
Yeah, Jermaine Pratt.
Who was it?
Jermaine Pratt.
I don't blame Pratt at all for being angry about it. Ossai was not the only reason why they lost the game. Obviously, it's the play that everyone's going to remember, but that's not the only reason they lost. Burrow didn't have a great game.
No.
He threw 2 interceptions. One was a key interception late in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, this loss goes on everyone. And some pretty suspect officiating as well. It didn't directly lose the game, but to get the Chiefs an extra play, an extra couple plays, then ran the clock down a little bit more. Obviously, the Bengals had another opportunity after that. So, again, this is something I've said before. You can't let the officiating decide a game.
Yes. Yes.
You have to either win it yourself or you lose it. Because no matter what type of bad officiating happens, that means it was too close of a game to be decided yourselves, which means you left it in someone else's hands. Because it happens in sports, you either leave it up to the other team to win, you leave it up to the refs, or you leave it up to fate. And all those 3 things are stuff that you could control earlier in the game.
Yeah, I agree. And like I sort of think back to the 2018 NFC Championship and like that call or the no call on Roby Coleman late in that game, and just how in that moment, if that flag is thrown, the game's probably over. But at the same time, the Saints had the opportunity to go down and win the game and breeze through an interception in overtime. Like, I want to have sympathy for you, but at the same time, the Bengals had 2 opportunities, 2 drives in the fourth quarter to go down and take a 7-point lead, and you failed on it. And it's like, I can't really have the sympathy for you. You lost that game on your own, and the refs really didn't lose you that game. As much as you want to say the NFL's rigged, as much as you want to say the refs were trying to help the Chiefs win, it's really not true. It just really isn't. Like, the concept of the NFL legitimately rigging games is just unfathomable because of the amount of people that have to be involved, the amount of money that has to be involved. Like, it's just, it doesn't add up. It really wouldn't happen. And not to mention, the NFL is pretty terrible at doing things that they want to do. So, like, I don't know how they would hide a complete rigging scandal. It's just illogical, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not rigged. Are the refs biased at certain points? Of course, they're
Yeah.
human. They're going to lean a certain way. Maybe there's a player that they don't like because the player keeps talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
Which I believe that's what happened with Joey Bosa in the Chargers game.
Yeah.
If you're talking a lot to a ref, the ref is going to call against you. Sorry, that's just what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you're talking a lot of trash like the Bengals before the game, I'm sure they were talking to the refs as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know Zach Taylor was. You think that's going to go well at the end of the game in this situation? Hell no.
Yeah.
You've got to keep. This is why good coaches always tell their players, keep your mouth shut at the referee. Don't say a word to them. Because good coaches know that later in games, if something were to happen and there's one team keeping their mouth shut and there's another team talking trash, guess who the ref is going to call against? It's the team talking trash.
Yep.
So, again, there was stuff that happened late in the game that shouldn't have happened. 100% agree. But this happens every year in the West. The reason the Bengals made it to the Super Bowl last year is because of that crazy call in Oakland where they blew the whistle and nobody called it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If that doesn't happen, Vegas wins that game, who knows what happens then? But I knew the Bengals wouldn't have gone to the Super Bowl. So it's weird for Bengals fans to be saying that when they they were given that game against Vegas last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, like,
I feel like fans have such short minds that they don't remember every single terrible call that's happened throughout the NFL playoffs throughout history. So to be saying this right now is very, very weird. Even the Immaculate Reception, which had its 50-year reunion this year, was a very controversial call at the time.
Probably one of the most controversial plays in sports history.
Yeah, I mean, the chances of Falco not touching that ball at all, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Never for 1 minute do I not think that he was the first person to touch that ball.
Yeah, and, like, even though it's a bogus rule, it was the rule, so, you know.
So there's literally audio of the refs saying how much security are there, and then they made the call.
Yeah.
Refs are people. They're going to make calls depending on their safety. They're going to make calls depending on the team, which is what I talked about. Unless you get robots to make these calls, which can't happen in football, you're just going to have to deal with it. Now, you can get full-time refs, but that's up to the NFL to start paying their refs better.
Yeah, right. And
that's a league issue first.
Yeah. And that's sort of the issue when you're in a playoff system that, like, is a one and done game. I'm not saying to change it. I'm just saying, like, in that one and done game, there's going to be moments where the other outcome can determine your season, you know. And unfortunately, it is in the hands of the refs sometimes, but, you know, it's just, I always feel like blaming refs for losses is such a weak cop-out. It's so weak.
It is. So, in the 2013 Super Bowl, 2012 Super Bowl, 2013, so 2013 was the year of the Super Bowl happened, it was the 2012 season.
Yeah.
Was the holding call on Crabtree, what should have been the pass interference call for Crabtree
right.
when they were playing the Ravens?
Yes.
That was a no call. Could have gone 50-50. I believe that was still pass interference. The reason the Ravens won that game wasn't because of that one play. It's because they got off to a crazy hot start, and then the 49ers had to work all the way back.
Yeah, right.
You have to play the game your style, your way, and like I said, not leave it up to the refs.
Yep.
So you never know what's going to happen. Mahomes had a great game as well for playing on one ankle, which is not getting talked enough about because of all the ref stuff. He had passed for over 300 yards, had 2 touchdowns, And the reason that he was able to get the call is because he still just gave the pocket and gained 4 yards, again, on one ankle and one good leg.
Right.
Which is insane.
Yeah, it was so crazy. It was so crazy. And, like, people don't want to give him... I feel like people are hesitant to give Mahomes credit now at points because they don't want to beat a dead horse because we all know what Mahomes is. But, I mean, from a fan perspective, like, you just have to sit back in awe at this guy. Every time you think he can't do more, he does more. And, you know, all week people are saying Mahomes' ankle injury pretty much locks this up for Cincinnati. And he goes out there and does what he does. And the Chiefs really, you know, they didn't run away with it by any means. But I feel like that 13-0 lead at the start was so huge.
On one ankle, looked like Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, right. It's like, it's just so insane. And against a defense that is so stout at stopping receivers, like they held Stephon Diggs to nothing. And Mahomes is just an unbelievable talent. And like I was saying this weekend with Hurts, as much as I love Hurts and as great as I think Hurts is, he won't even be close to Mahomes' level like ever. And I think as of this moment right now, Hurts is the number 2 QB in the NFL. The gap is big between him and Hurts. It's big. It's big between him and Allen. It's big between anyone you want to put at 2. It's big.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how I've looked at it from this point as of right now. Top tier Mahomes, no one's even really that close to him. 2 is Burrow and Allen. I want to put Hurts there, but I need a couple more years out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't decide and put him that high up for just like one amazing year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, exactly. I want to see more out of him because everyone could put Wentz at around that level as well. And then after he got hurt, he wasn't anywhere close to the same quarterback he was that
Yeah, that's
season.
true.
Obviously, Hurts doesn't. He looks healthier. He keeps looking healthier, but he needs to stay healthy, be consistent. I 100% agree with that. I understand why you wouldn't put him up there. I feel like Hurts is around a tier 3 to tier 4 right now.
Mm-hmm.
What about this? What about Cam Newton? They're like kind of the same player, and he had a way better year, whatever year Super Bowl 50 was, and he got injured shortly after, and he never looked the same again.
Yeah, well, here's the difference is like Newton, I don't feel like Newton was as smart of a football player as Hurts, and I don't think that Newton had the arm talent that Hurts has. Like, he can throw it deep and everything, but I'm talking throwing with anticipation, like being able to create a rhythm. I don't think Newton was at that level of a passer, and like Newton's style and ability was so new that that's why they won all those games. And, you know, they did make the Super Bowl, so you can't take it away from him or anything. But yeah, I can hear your point, but I don't think Hurts is going down that path. Like,
No, I don't think so either.
Hurts is definitely a different breed than
No,
that.
I don't believe so, but I understand what you're saying, Zach.
Yeah.
Where you can have one good year, and that could be it for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why I'm hesitant to put Hurts all the way up there as well. But I definitely think that Burrow and Allen are very close to each other. I still think Burrow's a little bit better than Allen, but Allen just, yes, the Bills lost. He didn't look good throughout most of the postseason, but the way that he passes,
Yeah.
just his natural ability is amazing. But I don't think there's anyone that close to Mahomes at all.
No, I don't think so
I
either.
understand that we're now living in a culture where it's very easy to hate the most popular players.
Yeah.
And we feel like that they're being like sort of thrown at us all the time, and it can get annoying for sure. But you also have to take a step back at a certain point to say, wow, you're watching one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history right now.
Right, yeah. You really are. And from every perspective, like, he's going to get the accolades, and there's an argument Mahomes is the most talented QB ever,
Yeah.
just purely based off talent alone.
Mhm.
I don't really even think it's that close.
Yeah, I really don't. Like, even though Rodgers has a similar arm, I think Mahomes does way more on his legs.
Yeah, he's more mobile than
Yeah.
Rodgers.
And, like,
I mean,
just the arm angles he's able to throw from, everything like that, like, I think
Yeah.
it just puts him above anyone.
before Mahomes, the 2 greatest quarterbacks were Joe Montana and Tom Brady. Neither are even close to the athletic ability that Mahomes has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once Mahomes like wins a couple Super Bowls and he has another 2 or 3 MVPs under his belt, like he will blow guys like Montana out of the water. And that's no slight on Montana, like absolutely none. It's just Mahomes.
Yeah. I did notice when Osai knocked him out of bounds. Did you see how he got up and walked?
Mahomes?
Yeah. It
No,
looked like his ankle injury got 5 times worse.
Yeah. Like with the limping and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I know. And I noticed that when they played Jacksonville too. Like when he came back in and he was dropping back, and it just looked like he couldn't even walk really. But yeah, I saw that too. Like, and he was making steps, and then like it just looked like he went back to Jacksonville after that play. Like, I definitely see that, but I really hope he can rest the ankle for the next 2 weeks because I would love to see fully healthy Mahomes versus the Eagles team. Like, it's going to be a battle.
Yeah, that's sort of my concern, though, for me about the Chiefs. If he's not 100%, like, he was able to play much better than I thought he was going to with that severe that ankle injury is. But if he did re-injure it on that last play and only has 2 weeks to heal against this Eagles defense, the way they played against the 49ers, I don't know how well that will go for him.
Yeah, I agree. Because what else can they turn to if they can't lean on Mahomes? You know, and like the things that they can turn to, it's just not even a match for the Eagles defense.
No, and the other thing too, which I've only seen a couple times, the Eagles are one of only 4 playoff teams to win their first 2 playoff games by 24 or more points.
Yeah.
The other 3 teams to do it, the 85 Bears, who had one of the best defenses in football history that season under the 4-6 defense with Billy Bryant, and the 80 and 89 49ers. That's it.
3 of the best teams in NFL history right there. Literally. But no one wants to give the Eagles the credit they deserve. They just, and I mean, you don't have to win the Super Bowl, but being on the Super Bowl puts you in that conversation. I get that, but people are completely dismissing this team, saying they're frauds and stuff, when they are literally in the Super Bowl doing things that less than 5 teams have done ever. Like, it's just so backwards.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think that the Eagles match up great against the 49ers, but I can't really feel too confident because they're going up against Mahomes. Like, that's kind of like
You mean
the
the
X
Chiefs?
factor for me.
Yeah.
But their defense is not good. I think they were going to put up at least 25 on the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
But the Eagles, I don't know if their defense will look as great as it has against the other teams on the Chiefs because,
Yeah.
like you guys said, he made MVS look like Tyreek Hill last week, and I don't know how you're going to stop Travis Kelce. I feel like you're going to put 2 of our very capable defenders on him. There's going to be too much of the field open, and then all the other guys are just going to run completely around. They got Pacheco, who's a great backfield catching running back.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a really offensive-minded game, similar to the Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl in 52. And I think it's going to be very high scoring, and I think it's going to come down to the wire in essence.
Yeah, okay. I definitely agree. And like, I think the Eagles are going to put up 30 on the Chiefs defense, and not because of like necessarily the Chiefs are that bad, but I just think that the Chiefs rely on Chris Jones a lot to help their defense, and that sort of plays into the Eagles because Chris Jones is going to be getting blocked by Kelce and Dickerson and Sayamalu all game, which Dickerson does have an injury, which I've read isn't too serious. They aren't super worried. He will have a brace, but he should be able to play normally. So I don't see Chris Jones necessarily wreaking havoc on a game like he did wreak havoc on Cincinnati. But I don't really see that happening this game. And the thing is, for the Chiefs secondary, if they don't have a pass rush, they've been known to give up passing plays a lot this year when their pass rush isn't getting home. So, like, I agree with you. That plays into the Eagles. And defensively, I'm not as worried about the Eagles matching up with Kelce. Like, Kelce will get his. Like, there's no question. That's just that's just Travis Kelce. I think it helps for the Eagles when the Chiefs aren't as talented in the receiver position, because you can sort of center your focus a little more on Travis Kelce, and you don't necessarily have to worry about the receivers being covered by Slay, Bradbury, and Maddox. I think that the Eagles have sort of been underrated. Like, they really held Kittle in check. Like, he had 2 catches, and then he ran like just an end around sort of thing. They just wanted to kind of get the ball in his hand. I think that they will be able to hold the Chiefs under 30. That's kind of where I'm at. I think the Eagles will be in the 30s, and I think the Chiefs will be close to 30, but not at 30.
It will be a very close offensive-minded game, for sure. I just want to touch on a quick point that you made, Slay, about everyone saying the Eagles are frauds and play a very easy schedule. the NFC at the beginning of the year was so bad, I picked the Vikings to win. That's where I was at. This was a very weak NFC, and this is why I said early in the season, whatever team is able to make a good run will easily sweep through the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happened that that team was the Eagles. But it could have been any of the top 4 teams. But that was pretty much it. We all knew that the AFC was stacked this year at quarterbacks, at skill players everywhere. The NFC did not have that. So
Yeah.
who were the Eagles supposed to play this season? The Cowboys were a playoff team who they already beat once this year, probably would beat them again.
Mm-hmm.
If they were to play the Vikings, they already had beaten the Vikings. They've beaten the Giants 3 times this year.
Yeah.
So who else were they supposed to play?
Yeah, and like no one going into Philly looked good, and everyone had to go through Philly. So I completely agree with what you're saying. I'm pretty sure the Eagles were only like they were middle of the road. I'm pretty sure 12th in strength of schedule this year. So my thing is like, if you're gonna blame the Eagles for beating up on these bad teams and stuff, why couldn't anyone else do it? Because no one did it the way the Eagles did it. It's like, it really is illogical, and it's you just don't like the team that's there. Like, that's kind of what it is, and that's what's gonna happen.
You can admit that.
Yeah.
Like, people don't like other teams for whatever reason.
Completely. Yeah.
Philly fans can be annoying. Yes.
Yes.
As someone who lives in Philadelphia, Philadelphia Eagles, any sports fan, they can get a little bit irritated.
Yeah, none of us are gonna deny that.
From Philly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Same reason why Philly fans don't like Cowboy fans.
Right.
Don't like 49er fans after what happened. But you can just say that without saying that a team played a really easy schedule.
Yeah. Without like, you can say you hate us without just lying. Like, it's pretty much just lying at this point. It's just denial.
You guys have any more points with the NFL?
No, I think we touched on that pretty well. So.
All right.
Yeah, I think that next week's we gotta save for Super Bowl.
Yeah, I want to save like the more in-depth analysis for next week, because we're going to learn a lot over this week too. Like this Tuesday to next Tuesday, we're going to learn a lot. The media night's going to happen, and you'll have a better feel for the game as it gets closer.
Oh yeah, I do want to add one more point in the NFL. Tyler Huntley is a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, this is sort of laughable.
Quarterback.
Did see that. Although I did forget that there's 2 new coaching hires too, which are interesting.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But hold on, this has got to be the first quarterback with a negative touchdown to interception ratio to go in the Pro Bowl.
I know. Yeah,
Joe,
it really is.
That means
Did
Justin
Lawrence
Herbert
not
had
get
to
in?
say no. I don't think he got in. I mean,
Like
all these guys had to say no, because I know Allen
Yeah,
said no,
okay.
Burrow said no, Herbert had to have said no.
okay.
Lawrence probably had to have said no.
Yeah.
Everyone just said no down the line.
All right, that's sort of fair. I was so confused, and I wasn't sure if they just. I didn't know you had a choice, really. Honestly, I didn't know. But that kind of makes more sense. If people are denying it, then yeah, they probably just ran out of the list.
I think what they did, because it was supposed to be Lamar, so I think they just picked Lamar's backup.
Okay.
But I saw that Joe Flacco had more passing yards than Huntley, so I don't know why they didn't ask anyone else.
Yeah. Right. Mike White probably played better than Huntley this year
Oh,
too.
yeah, he should have won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, over Huntley.
When you go down the list, I would even put in Skylar Thompson, honestly.
Yeah, maybe.
The way that he played against the Bills.
Yeah, that's it. You get a Pro Bowl berth because of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of. Look, the Pro Bowl's been a joke for years. At
Right.
this point.
Yeah.
So it's not like that this is at all hurting the Pro Bowl's, hurting the legacy of the Pro Bowl at all.
Yeah, no, it really.
That's not what's happening here.
The most important moment in Pro Bowl history is when Sean Taylor lit up that punter, and it's only because of the tragedy that followed Sean Taylor. The Pro Bowl is such a joke. It's been a joke forever. The NBA All-Star Game is headed down that path.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, what sucks about the All-Star games is that they're either in the middle of the season for most sports, so it's not like guys are trying to go all out. And when it comes to football, you don't want to get hurt in a pointless game at the end of the season when you're already beat up anyway.
Yeah.
So there's not really a win-win situation. I think it's what's cool about the Pro Bowl, or at least what was cool until Huntley got picked, is that it was a way to honor the best players,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how they played. And look, I understand again, Huntley went in because Lamar got hurt. I can sort of accept that more than if Huntley just got picked for no reason at all.
Yeah, agreed.
So, that's sort of my feeling on it. It is a joke, but the Pro Bowl, like we said, has turned into a joke. So why not just keep the joke going?
Yeah.
I quickly want to move into the NBA. The schedule is kind of rounding out, and we're seeing teams go up, go down, and some teams stay down. So my biggest takeaways were, since Zion has been out for basically the whole month of January, that the Pelicans have moved all the way down to the 8th seed in the play-in tournament in the West.
Wow.
The Warriors are slowly climbing back up. They're in the 5th seed right now, but the 5th seed and the 9th seed is the 5th seed and the 10th seed is a difference of one whole game. So it's not like they're really out of it yet, but for someone that was in like the 11th, 12th spot up until like 2 weeks ago, I guess that's something.
Yeah.
And if the Warriors do, like when they get into the playoffs again, like every team that faces them is going to have to worry about them because 4-time champions. And I don't know, it's just so uncharacteristic seeing them where the Lakers normally are.
Agreed.
Like the halfway mark of the season.
Yeah. And you could even take it a step further. In the West, the 4th seed and the 13th seed Lakers are only separated by 4 games.
Yeah.
Like, that's a huge number of teams in contention for... they all could make the playoffs. 4 through 13 literally could either miss or make the playoffs. That's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sacramento is sitting comfy at the 3rd seed.
Yeah, and let's put this into perspective. So we said 4 and 13 in the West are separated by 4 games. How about 4 and 8 in the East, separated by 7.5 games?
That's crazy.
That's an insane difference, like, in that kind of conference. Like, I think it shows that the East is better. Like, I think that the teams at the top are more of contenders than the teams at the top in the West.
Yeah, I'm way more scared of whoever comes out of the East than I am of the West.
I agree.
Unless it's the Warriors, because that's the only team with like a winning pedigree. Like if Denver comes out and they're facing like the Bucks are gonna like gentlemen sweep them. I think.
I kind of agree with that. Even Boston.
Yeah, and I think if Memphis comes out with, I really don't think it's going to happen. But if they do, they're gonna get swept by any team in the East because they just don't have any experience, and on top of it, they feel like they've conquered everything when they really haven't done anything yet.
And I'm going to take it a step further again with you because you said Milwaukee and we added Boston to beat the Nuggets in a finals matchup. I would say Sixers, Nets, and Cavs. I'll just go Sixers, Nets, Cavs. I was teetering on the Heat, but no, I'm going to leave the Heat out of it. Sixers, Nets, Cavs, I think would beat Nuggets in the finals.
But they're starting to get hot again, which is exactly what happened last year.
Yeah.
Which, for any team in the top of the East right now, has got to be scary.
Yeah, I know, because they're a first-round matchup.
I mean, even when the Sixers were the higher seed last year, I was saying that the Heat were going to win that series. The Heat are just not a good matchup for pretty much any team.
I actually trust the Heat more than I trust Cleveland because the Heat have Jimmy Butler.
Just a pedigree. I agree.
They've been there many times before, and Donovan Mitchell has had a lot of playoff collapses. I mean, granted, his second option was Rudy Gobert, and everyone knows how I feel about him. I don't really see anyone who can lead this team besides him. And Darius Garland, I don't think he's never made the playoffs, right? Or last year?
Last year he made the play-in. That was it.
Play-in, okay. Yeah, they just don't have that experience yet, and Memphis is like literally half a step above them right now.
Mm-hmm. So
unless they get like decent exposure in this year's playoffs, I will still take the Heat over them.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that.
In a 7-game series.
Yeah, and I do think the Cavs are like made for something, but I can see that like this year I think the Cavs are just going to have to run into a team that's a little bit more experienced, but at the end of the day, they really could make noise. I definitely could see it, but I do agree. Like, I think of the top 6 teams in the East right now, Cleveland might be under them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So honestly, screw it. We could throw the Heat in. I think the Heat would beat the Nuggets in the finals.
Oh yeah, 100%,
yeah. I could
100%.
see that, bro.
Jimmy Butler, in my mind, is always a top 10 player because of what he does when he actually shows up to like win games.
Yeah.
I know like he's kind of like trending towards like Kawhi Leonard in the sense where he just does not try in the regular season anymore. And it's like hurting my argument saying this, but like everyone knows what he's going to do when it's a 7-game series.
Yeah, and we saw like last year when it was Game 6 and their backs were against the wall in Boston and he put up a 40-piece. I completely agree with you. It just feeds into that. Like Jimmy Butler is just a guy who's going to show up when he needs to.
Mm-hmm.
And I can definitely see that a little bit, but I think like Butler takes November and December for sort of like a half ride. And then as Aiden was saying, like the Heat kind of did this last year where they surged at the right time. And like that's sort of happening now too. Like, I can see that. Butler kind of turns up the notch as the season goes on. I can definitely see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a huge Butler fan. You know that. Like, I'm a huge Jimmy Butler fan.
I really think he could beat that team could beat the top, like the teams 3 seeds higher than them. So Cleveland,
Definitely.
Brooklyn, and Philly.
I could even see that. Like, I could see them beating Milwaukee or Boston. I would not be surprised. I wouldn't pick it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I would pick, actually, now that you say it, I would pick Boston because they look really overrated now. But not Milwaukee. Milwaukee's been there. They've done that. And they've beat them in the playoffs a couple times too.
Mm-hmm.
So
I see it.
Yeah, that's my team.
Also, I was just going to add too that one of the teams that are in the top 4 right now, Brooklyn, is going through a lot of turmoil right now.
Yeah.
As well. Did you guys saw the whole Ben Simmons fiasco again?
No, what happened?
Fill me in.
So Ben apparently got hurt in, I forget, it was the game after the Sixers game where he didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. And apparently he got hurt and went out of the game. And when the Nets coach was asked about it, he kind of rolled his eyes. And that made a lot of people speculate that Ben wasn't actually hurt. And he was just kind of taking himself out of a game that he wasn't playing well in.
Yeah.
Which
is so Ben Simmons.
Look, regardless if it's true or not, it doesn't look great for an organization that right now doesn't have Kevin Durant for another couple of weeks, has been trying to rely on Ben Simmons to score more, and he just hasn't been, even though he's been given the opportunities. And now you're just relying on Kyrie to win, which we already know he can't do by himself.
I sort of saw this coming. Like, I mean, when Durant went down, I could see like the chemistry taking a step back because they don't have him.
No.
And it's like, you know, when Durant isn't in the games and he's not physically practicing with you, a guy like Simmons is such a cancer. It's so bad for a team, and that's such a easy example of it. Why would you ever roll your eyes at your coach in any situation, much less when they're asking you about an injury? It just shows that he's a selfish player. And
well, the coach rolled his eyes about the question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. All right.
So, but he rolled his eyes in sort of a way that he almost made it seem like the injury wasn't like a legitimate injury.
Yeah, and Simmons was crying about it. Okay, I understand now. Yeah,
So
Again, the whole thing is just very strange.
Yeah, it doesn't change much about what I was saying. Like, you know, Simmons is still that kind of guy. So
Yeah, oh yeah.
yeah.
I think Kyrie is gonna like absolutely snap on Ben Simmons like
Yeah, I
really
can see
soon.
it. I think Durant though. I think Durant would be first to shoot. I think Durant would. Followed
the
by
only
Kyrie.
reason I'm saying Kyrie is because every time, like I even catch it on my TV sometimes when I'm watching the Nets play, like they'll get like mic'd up players like as the shots like going on the team's side. You'll just hear him say like, "Shoot it, Ben! Shoot it, Ben! Shoot it, Ben!" And like he's always like the most like encouraging, but like it's not gonna last long if this shit keeps up. And
Yeah.
I've seen Kevin Durant like take a back seat like way too many times, whereas I've seen Kyrie actually like speak up on things,
Yeah.
and not in like a confrontational, but more of like a petty way. But I think it will turn confrontational because like I know neither of them wanted Ben Simmons in return for James Harden. Like they had a guy who is going to be a Hall of Famer, and now they have a guy who no one in the league respects or like actually thinks wants to like win in basketball games. Like he says it all the time. He's like, oh, like they'll ask him like, why do you think you're getting taken out in the fourth quarter? He's like, I don't know. It's coach's decision, but if you ask me, I want to be there. I don't believe that for anything.
I agree.
Like I don't think he wants to be in there. I think he wants to ride this out. I mean, I don't think it's smart for his future because he's going to get like a really shitty contract after this
Yeah.
in comparison to his last. But don't really buy Ben wanting to win, wanting to be in the game. Like, and Kyrie and Kevin Durant are in that spot in their career where, for different reasons, like people don't think that they can win together.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben is like a ball and chain right now to them getting to that point, and they're gonna take it out on him very soon. I think his leash is like really short at this point.
Yeah, I see it happening before the season ends, but I could see it happening really soon. And like you're saying, Simmons is just like, he wants to take the back seat, and I think he wants to take the back seat because he knows no matter what happens in the game, he's gonna get his check and he's gonna go home. But like you were saying, he's not going to get the same contract that he has right now when this one's up. I mean, if I were a GM, I wouldn't even call his phone. Like, I would not be offering him a contract of any kind, veterans minimum, you name it. I wouldn't be offering it.
I would offer him vet minimum for sure.
I wouldn't, because when you're getting a guy on a veterans minimum contract, you want a team builder, a chemistry leader in the locker room, like a voice, a veteran voice. And what are you getting out of Ben Simmons' voice? Nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that when he gets a lower contract than what he has, he's going to become more annoying because he's not making as much money. And it's like, that's just kind of where I see this going. And I see, honestly, after his contract's up with Brooklyn, I see him maybe going to one or two teams and then just pretty much being blackballed from the NBA. Not because of strictly because no team will want him on their team. You know, he's not a guy you want on your team, regardless of money, regardless of all the business stuff. You just don't want a player like that on your team.
It's definitely possible, but he still has so much time left. In the grand scheme of things, we've seen a lot, but he's 26 now.
Listen, he's not getting better.
He's not getting better, but I feel like if he rides this contract out, still same Ben Simmons, and then he gets a really shitty contract in a location that he doesn't really want to play basketball in, maybe he's maybe I should actually buy into a team and maybe try to prove my worth a little bit because I won't be able to live the lifestyle I want.
Yeah.
Acting the way I do. I think he'll have to learn the hard way, but I don't really see him never expanding on his character because it's just going to destroy everything he wants at the end of the day.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it's just the amount of times he's been slapped in the face. I just feel like he's unconscious to it. And I just think he's incapable of learning a lesson like that. I think he's so stubborn and set on what he is that he won't veer off it for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just very complicated, and unfortunately Ben never turned into that player. And I know that it sounds like we're beating a dead horse to be talked about before, but it just feels like it's always something new with him. And it's just the same thing all the time where you're getting paid all this money, the Nets traded for you because they thought you could be an additional piece to winning a championship for them. And they've gone 3-9 since Durant's gotten hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the game that Ben went out was a loss to the Pistons, which is not a great look for a team that is supposed to be a top-tier team in the East. So, I don't know where this Nets team's going. I think they need Durant back 100%, but this has always been my issue with the Nets since they put the team together. If Durant and Kyrie can't stay healthy for the playoffs, where do they go?
Yeah.
Nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole issue. It's that they're going to collapse immediately, and there's no one really to blame but themselves because they put together two kind of injury-prone players as your 1 and 2 piece, and then a couple of role players, and now Ben Simmons, which it just doesn't work the way that they set up this team.
I mean, if they are healthy, I could see it working because they have been playing really good basketball up to that point, but they're going to have to get really lucky if they want to even get to the conference finals.
Mm-hmm.
But I see a scenario they win it all.
When they run into I could see it too before I start this. I can definitely see it. But I feel like when they run into a team that is mentally tougher than them, which I feel like, at least for now, I feel like Boston, Milwaukee, and Philly, all three of them are mentally tougher than Brooklyn. Brooklyn will face a lot of issues because I think that those four teams are evenly matched on paper and on the court specifically, but I think that the mental toughness of those three other teams that I mentioned will carry them over a team like Brooklyn, which is going to have just a lot of internal issues with guys like Ben Simmons. And it's really Ben Simmons mixed with guys like Kyrie and KD. It's not a slight on those two, but it's just that like they are hard asses and they demand like maximum effort and accountability out of their teammates at all times, which is good. But Simmons is a guy that gets pissed when that happens. Like, that's why he hated Butler. That's why he hated Embiid. That's why he hated Glenn Rivers. Like, is because those three are guys that are going to be on your ass. They're sort of hard asses, especially Butler. Mm-hmm. And like, as many times as they tried to push Simmons and they tried to make him realize, like, we aren't going far because you aren't giving us enough. And he failed to realize that. He took it as an insult when it was really just, I want this team to be better. I want this team to win a championship.
Yeah, and it's just even more frustrating because I think if he actually got his head out of his ass, the Sixers would have won.
Oh, 100%. And Ben Simmons has Hall of Fame size and athleticism to where if he tried to develop his game, he would pretty much be a Hall of Fame talent. Like, you know, imagine if Ben Simmons was able to operate as an actual point guard at that size. Like, we just tried to kind of plug him in at point guard because he could dribble.
Yeah.
But, like, he can't even really dribble like a point guard or as effectively as a point guard. And then it's so much more infuriating when he can't shoot a lick. Like, he doesn't give you anything out of a pick and roll because he has no mid-range game. Like, he can't pull up for a jumper. He can't run a floater over a bigger defender. He can't do those things that a point guard needs to do in order to be effective. And like, those were things that people were like, you need to work on this. You need to be able to develop a mid-range jumper. You need to be able to develop a floater game. You need to be able to shoot your free throws well. You need to be able to create more isolation moves, one-on-one moves. And these were all things Ben Simmons took as insults instead of like, we're trying to make this team better. Mm-hmm. And that's just the thing. That's why I think Simmons will be out of the league fairly soon.
I can see it.
Because guys with Ben Simmons' mentality don't last long in any sports league, any of them.
I just haven't seen a stark example of this like ever.
No, I definitely hear you, but like, here's the reason it doesn't happen in a sport. Like, I'll take baseball. Because when you're drafted number 1 in baseball, you don't get a choice. You have to go to the minor league. And it's like, you just have to prove to everyone that you are actually capable of getting to the MLB. And they're going to help you get to the MLB. If a guy like Simmons was drafted in the MLB, I doubt he would even make it up through the minor league system because he would just be halted at a certain point because you aren't able to develop past that point. But it's like in the NBA, you're drafted number 1 overall. Dude, they want you on the court starting, like now, you know? And it's like, I don't know, there should have been more in-depth look into his actual ability. And I feel like if the NBA had a minor league system, the Sixers would have saw that. But obviously you don't. And on the flip side, like in the NFL, I think you're kind of seeing it with Zach Wilson. It's just not as nationally broadcasted, really. Like, I think Wilson and Simmons have similar mindsets. Maybe not Wilson to the extent of Simmons, but I feel like it's similar. And you're seeing Wilson is failing. Because in the NFL, you don't even get a sliver of success with a mentality like Simmons. You are failing actively. Wilson has actively failed.
That typically reminds me of, if we're going to be talking about other athletes, DeMarcus Russell.
Yes, that's a great one. That's actually an insane one. Because remember that story of when the coaches like faked the tape for him and he like lied about it. They knew he wasn't watching the tape. Like, it's so bad, dude. That's like,
it's awful.
Yeah.
But when you have, like, Slay, you said this, when you have a mindset like that, you're not going to last long because you'll be replaced immediately. Yep. The Sixers, as soon as they had an opportunity to upgrade from him, they took it.
Yep.
they would never do that with someone like Embiid or even Thibault, who is not. Look, I love Thibault's defense. He's not a great basketball player, but they even held out on him until they got something better. Most teams will not unload a guy like Simmons unless they feel they absolutely have to.
Yeah.
And that's where the Nets right now, where they feel like that they have to, which is crazy. That's only taken them half a season with him for them to realize that. Because the hope was that now Josh Simmons is somewhere where he'll feel more comfortable, where there's not always national media on you because the New York media follows the Knicks more than the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how well the Nets are playing, that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah.
So the idea was we'll put him in a smaller market, so to speak, and he still hasn't stepped up. I mean, unless you put this guy on like Detroit or I don't know, Houston, maybe. Like, I don't know where this guy can thrive.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it really should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Ben Simmons would never do that.
Yeah, I think he would quit before he did.
Yeah, no, straight up. 100%. And it's like, I don't know. Simmons doesn't really have a great personality anyway. So, like, it's not like he can go into a broadcasting career after, like, this is just like a dead end.
No, he's actually like a lot like Kawhi Leonard, but with like subtle, like when he, like, have you ever seen like his like interviews? Like he like nitpicks at like other teams and players so much for someone that like,
I know.
Like he shit on the Nets like a lot before he got there. He was like, we were going up against them in like a big game or something. And he was like talking about how there's only one ball and there's James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, I remember
all this stuff. And he was saying like going on and on where he's like, "Oh, I'm better than Rudy Gobert." I agree, but like, you're not that much better than him.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, you're really not. They're actually very similar in terms of they just can't expand their game.
Rudy's a superior defender.
Yeah.
I think they're like literally mirror images of each other. It's just one has like perimeter defense acknowledgement and the other one is interior defense acknowledgements. But like when you throw them on the other side, like you see the problem like right then and there.
Right.
The other thing I want to talk about with the NBA, because this was a little bit controversial since we were talking about refs earlier, the no call foul on LeBron.
Holy moly.
Would have won the Lakers game. And I know we said this earlier about games where you have to win it yourself. Don't leave it up to the hands of the officials. I agree with that. However, in this situation, this is something that should have been reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this is something where like the 1 seed in the East is going up against the 10 or 12th seed in the West, and that could have potentially like been a big momentum booster for the Lakers.
Right. We just talked about how they're separated from the 4th seed by like 4 games. Like that's huge for them.
Like, I know I don't believe in rivalries in the NBA, but like it's even a bigger boost that it would have been the Celtics if LeBron of all people would have made the go-ahead layup
on the road. Right.
Yeah, like
completely agreed.
They shouldn't. I mean, the Celtics are a much better team than them, despite going up against LeBron James. But like the refs did blow that game.
There were multiple bad ones too. Like the one call on Schroeder when Tatum was going up for that fast break layup was atrocious. And the ref just had no angle at it really, but he still made the call. It was just not. I'm going to say this forever. Jack, you've heard me say this about 50 million times. The NBA is the worst officiated league in all of the 4 major sports.
Yeah.
And it's so glaring. It's so obvious. And I don't think I've ever seen an NBA game that I was like, wow, the officials did a great job that game. I don't think I've ever seen an NBA game where I can say that. Like, it really feels like every time down the floor, the refs are missing something. And as much as I hate the players whining and complaining, which I do, and I'm not excusing it, I'm just saying that I can understand it to a point. But at the same time, like, dude, you're a grown man. Like, you need to stop the complaining.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't I rarely watch games anymore, if I'm being honest. Like, I'll only watch, like, I'm watching every Sixers-Nets game from now on until, like, when those guys are there. I'm watching, like, Sixers versus Nuggets. I mean, I'll watch the Lakers or the Nets sometimes if they're on and I'm doing nothing. But, like, it just kind of ruins my perception of the game when every time someone dribbles the ball, it's a carry. Like, every time you do a Euro step, they throw an extra step in. Like, every time, like, they're just, like, abusing, like, the most simple rules that, like, every fan that watched and played wasn't able to do. And, like, the game just becomes, like, unrelatable at this point because you can't mimic anyone's moves anymore.
Yeah, right.
I've said it on here multiple times, but, like, I don't know. It's just like annoying to watch. I can't like.
I can understand it.
I need to like switch over to college or something. I don't know if they do that there too.
No,
but they
no.
don't. Okay.
Never. You'd never see that.
Basketball's great. I love the best part about college basketball too is that you can play zone defenses, which I understand why you can't do that for the NBA, but it makes the game so much more interesting because you're not just have a one-on-one where you can just throw up the ball from a three-point line and it automatically like will go in.
Yeah.
You set up a good zone, you have to fire a good pass. You actually have to pass the ball around and get an open shot. You can't just dribble it up and shoot it in somebody's face. So, I mean, I agree that the NBA's officiating is bad. I don't think NFL fans realize how well they have it.
Yes. Yes.
But I do think that when it comes to last-minute calls like that, and especially because the NBA has that policy of reviewing late calls, they need to figure something out because you can say, oh, we get that call wrong. That's going to make things so much worse for players.
Yeah.
So then it proves their point.
Yeah.
If the NFL were to review both of those playoff games, yeah, they would find issues, but not one that you can say, oh, this would have made or break a game. That call on LeBron, it would have actually made or break the game.
Yeah.
It was the last play in regulation. That typically doesn't happen in the NFL.
Yeah, and it was just, I don't understand how a play like that is missed, too. I just don't see how that obvious of a foul is missed. It just makes no sense to me. I don't understand. And it just shows referee incompetence. Like, if you do not call that foul, I'm sorry, you just cannot referee NBA basketball. You can't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you cannot. You are not a competent official.
I mean, you know the guy is 36-2.
Yeah, I
when
saw
reffing Celtics games, and his whole family is Celtics fans.
Yeah, I don't really buy into it, but people.
I don't think you should ref Celtics games. Like if you were born in Philly, and I'm saying this, like if you were a referee, I don't want you reffing Sixers games because I know you'd be.
Or at least like you wouldn't, as a Celtics fan, you wouldn't want me reffing a Sixers game because
or anything like that. I don't think you should ref games against your home team.
Yeah,
bias will creep in whether you want to admit it or not.
Yeah, and not to mention that it's Mark Jones that you're talking about. Mark Jones is a horrible official too. Like he's just terrible at his job, and I can go through the entire list of NBA referees, and I can comfortably say probably 95% of them are terrible at their jobs. And I'm not trying to harp on them too much, and I don't necessarily want to just throw dirt on them all the time, but when it is affecting the quality of the product, I need to, because they need a complete new look. Like I think the entire official landscape needs to just be washed out. Like I would not be against getting rid of every NBA official and just trying to redo the NBA official training and just getting new NBA officials in, because they need a fresh new look. Like a lot of these guys, you see them in multiple games making just horrendous calls. You see that no coach really likes any referees. Like it's just the quality of the game is affected. Like that's the bottom line. And I think you need a fresh new face, to lead this, because the officiating is just horrible and it's so infuriating.
And the thing is, not that refereeing any sport is easy at all, and I'm not trying to say this, but basketball is one of the easier ones to ref.
Yes, I completely agree.
When you're behind the plate, you are making calls, about 200 calls, and maybe not that many, but you're making close to 100 calls a game.
Yes.
On balls and strikes. That is not easy to do when the ball is moving on a curveball or being thrown at 100 miles per hour. When you're on a football field, that's a huge field that you cover. There's a reason why they missed the Devontae Smith drop. Yeah. Because you can't get a good angle on that where you're at on the sideline.
Yeah.
And when you're on the opposite sideline, you're something like 70 yards away. Basketball, you're right there.
Yeah, you are right on the level of all these people. And like, to your point too, Aiden, calling balls and strikes, just the thought of how difficult it is incredible. Yet, MLB umpires this season got 91% of balls and strikes calls correct this year, which, in my opinion, is an absurd number. I thought it would be less than that. I don't know the number, but because I don't think anyone could make a number on this, but I believe NBA officials get calls correct 1 out of 3 times, which is just mind-boggling that it's that low, but it feels that low. And like, I'm not even just saying this for Sixers games, even though it happens in Sixers games all the time. I will literally see calls made against the team the Sixers is playing, and I'm like, that's a horrible call. I would be furious. And I see neutral games where the Sixers aren't playing, I'm like, that's a terrible, terrible call. And it feels like every time down the floor. And it's just so stupid, like, especially when, like you brought up, the MLB and NFL officials are pretty much, I don't want to say great because I feel like that might not be as widely accepted, but those referees and umpires are good at their job. Flat out, like, you have bad ones, but the majority of them are really good at their jobs. I can't say that in the NBA. I can't really say any of them are good at their jobs.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Next week, I do want to go in depth about the Sixers Nuggets games. I want to like make a I want to make an MVP talk, so I'll do that next episode. So next Saturday, you'll see that. All right, see you.